The Galactic Station. Orion Prime floated in the silence of space like a shining jewel. From its large windows, thousands of stars looked like glittering dust scattered across black velvet. The station was home to over 200 alien species, each different in shape, color, and nature, but all living under one shared rule: peace. For years, the Galactic Union had worked hard to make this place safe. Trade ships came and went, markets buzzed with light and sound, and diplomats discussed politics in shining glass halls. Yet in that peace there was always tension, small fears, quiet doubts, and much of that quiet tension surrounded the humans. They were a new member race, from a small blue planet called Earth, located in a distant arm of the galaxy. Compared to the ancient species of the Union, they were young and unpredictable. The galactic scientists had studied their world and called it a death world, a planet full of predators, disease, storms, and endless danger. No other known race could survive there for long. But humans did. Not only did they survive, they thrived. They had built cities, discovered flight, and then escaped their dangerous world to explore the stars. To the other species, humans were living miracles, or warnings. Ambassador Reinar of the Valari watched them with growing curiosity. The Valari were gentle beings with soft fur, tall, thin frames, and fragile bones. Their homeworld had mild weather, no predators, and a peaceful history. They valued harmony above all things. Reinar had always believed that peace made a civilization strong, but after meeting humans, he began to question that belief. He saw them everywhere on Orion Prime, working as engineers, traders, and security officers. They smiled easily, joked with anyone, and offered help even when not asked. They seemed friendly, harmless, and calm, too calm. Reinar's large black eyes blinked slowly as he watched a group of humans repairing a broken cargo lift in the docking bay. They laughed and teased each other even while lifting heavy tools that a Valari could never hold. Their voices were loud, but their movements were careful, almost disciplined. "They are strange creatures," Reinar whispered to his assistant, a young Valari named Tari. Tari tilted her head. "You mean the humans, Ambassador?" "Yes, look at them. They are from a death world, a place of endless danger, yet they act like children at play. Maybe they just hide their fear well," Tari said softly. Reinar's tail twitched. "Hide? Yes. They wear masks, I think. They pretend to be soft, but inside..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have proof, only a feeling. Later that day, Reinar attended a diplomatic meeting. Representatives from many worlds sat around a circular table. The humans were there too, led by Captain Elias Hale, a tall man with calm gray eyes and a patient smile. "Ambassador Reinar," Hale greeted politely. "I heard your world sent new medical supplies to the outer colonies." "That's generous." "Thank you, Captain," Reinar replied, trying to read the human's expression. Hale's voice was warm, his tone respectful, but there was something hidden. Throughout the meeting, Reinar watched Hale closely. The human listened more than he spoke. When others argued, he stayed quiet. When someone insulted humans as primitive Deathworlders, Hale only smiled and said, "We're learning every day." It was as if nothing could make him angry. But Reinar could not understand how a being from a violent world could remain so calm. His mind kept returning to the same thought. This is not natural. After the meeting, Reinar approached Hale privately. "Captain Hale," he began, "may I ask you something personal?" Hale nodded. "Of course, Ambassador." Reinar's fur shimmered slightly in the soft light. "Your world? Is it truly as dangerous as the reports say?" Hale chuckled lightly. "More dangerous, probably. We have storms that can tear down cities, creatures with teeth longer than your arm, and plants that can kill if you touch them the wrong way." Reinar blinked. "Then how do your people survive such horror?" Hale looked at him, his gray eyes turning serious for the first time. "We adapt. We cooperate. And when that fails..." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "We fight." There was no pride in his voice, only truth. That night, Reinar sat alone in his quarters thinking. The human words echoed in his mind. We adapt. We fight. He had read history reports about Earth. Wars, disasters, famine, and yet always recovery. Every time humans were pushed to the edge, they returned stronger.
But why? How?
He opened a data file titled Human Psychology Report. It said humans were emotional, social, and deeply protective of their own kind. They were quick to laugh, quick to help, but when threatened, they could become something else entirely. Reinar scrolled further and stopped at one line that chilled him. Humans often hide their true emotions behind social masks. These masks maintain peace and prevent instinctive aggressive responses. Reinar leaned back slowly. So it's true, he whispered. They hide behind smiles, but then he frowned. Why would a powerful species choose to hide? He decided he needed to understand them better, not through reports but through experience. The next morning, Reinar visited the human sector of the station. It was different from the others. Music played softly through the corridors. Walls were decorated with colorful flags, pictures of oceans and forests, and even something called coffee shops, where humans sat talking and laughing together. He found Captain Hale sitting at a table, drinking a hot dark liquid that smelled strange. Ambassador Reinar, Hale greeted, smiling. Care for a seat? Reinar sat down carefully. This place feels alive, he said honestly. So much energy, so much emotion. Hale nodded. That's what keeps us human. Reinar watched two children run past, laughing. You seem happy, he said. But tell me, Captain, if your world is full of death and fear, how can your people still smile like that? Hale looked out the window toward the stars. Because we choose to. Life is hard, Ambassador. Smiling is how we fight back. There was silence for a moment. Then Reinar asked, And if you stop smiling? Hale turned his eyes back to him. The warmth in them was gone, replaced by something deeper, something dangerous. If we stop smiling, he said quietly, it means someone has pushed too far. Reinar felt a chill run through his fur. Later, back in his office, Reinar recorded a private log. Day 47 on Orion Prime. Observation. Humans are complex. They are capable of kindness and humor, but I sense they hold great power within. Their politeness may not be weakness, but a form of control, perhaps to protect others from what they truly are. He stopped recording and looked out the window at the planet below. He remembered how easily the humans worked in dangerous conditions, how calmly they reacted to insults, how carefully they measured their words. It was as if they carried a storm inside them but chose never to let it out. For a long time, Reinar thought peace came from softness. But now he wondered if true peace came from strength held back. He could not explain it, but he felt both admiration and fear. That evening, an emergency call echoed through the station. A power conduit in Docking Bay 3 had exploded, and several workers were trapped. Reinar hurried there with medical officers. Smoke filled the air and alarms flashed red. Before he could react, humans were already there, including Captain Hale. Seal the breach, Hale shouted, his voice firm but calm. Keep oxygen levels stable. Move the injured out first. The humans worked like a single unit, fast, fearless, focused. One human lifted a fallen metal beam that 3 aliens could not move together. Another used his own suit oxygen to save a suffocating worker. Within minutes, everyone was safe. Reinar stood watching, stunned. Not once had any human hesitated or panicked. Their teamwork was perfect, almost instinctive. When it was over, Hale approached him, his uniform covered in soot. Everyone's safe, he said simply. Reinar nodded slowly. You risked your life without thinking. Hale smiled faintly. We're used to danger, Ambassador. It reminds us who we are. Then he walked away. That night, Reinar could not sleep. The image of humans walking through smoke, calm and determined, stayed in his mind. He finally understood one thing. Humans were not pretending to be peaceful. They were choosing to be peaceful, and behind that choice was something vast, ancient, and unstoppable. He whispered to himself before the lights dimmed. They wear the mask not to fool us, but to protect us. Days passed on the Grand Station Orion Prime, and life returned to its usual peaceful rhythm. Traders shouted prices, ships arrived and left, and diplomats argued about minor laws. But inside the quiet halls of the Valari embassy, Ambassador Reinar could not stop thinking about the humans. He had seen their strength and calmness during the explosion. He had seen courage that no other race could match. But something still bothered him deeply. Why did they always hide it? Every time Reinar met a human, they smiled. Every time someone insulted them, they stayed calm. And every time there was danger, They reacted like machines, quick, controlled, almost emotionless. It made him curious, but also uneasy. He felt there was a truth behind their politeness, a truth the galaxy had never truly seen. That morning, Reinar met his assistant Tari in his office. "Ambassador," Tari said softly, "you have been studying the humans for many weeks now. Perhaps it is time to stop." Reinar looked up from his holographic screen. "Stop? No, Tari, I am close to understanding them." She tilted her head. "Understanding or judging?" Reinar's ears flicked in annoyance. "I only seek knowledge. But knowledge cannot be found if we accept only what they show us," Tari sighed. "Humans helped you. They saved lives during the explosion. Maybe that is their truth." Reinar stood up slowly, walking toward the window that showed the shining blue planet below. Or maybe they saved lives because they wanted to look good in front of the council. Perhaps they wear that smile to hide what they really are, the heart of a Deathworlder. Tari looked worried. "Ambassador, you must be careful. I heard Captain Hale is a respected man. The Union trusts him." Reinar's tail moved restlessly. "Then it is time to test that trust." The next day, Reinar called for a diplomatic meeting, one that looked official but had a secret purpose. He invited representatives from several species, including the human delegation led by Captain Elias Hale. The topic was simple: the nature of human behavior in the Galactic Union. When Hale received the invitation, he felt uneasy. He could sense something behind those polite words. Still, as a diplomat, he agreed to attend. Inside the grand meeting chamber, soft lights glowed over a round table. The banners of different worlds hung from the walls. Reinar stood at the center, speaking with smooth confidence. "Friends," he began, "today we discuss understanding. The humans have joined our union, but still many of us do not know who they truly are." Murmurs filled the room. Some aliens nodded in agreement. Hale sat quietly, watching Reinar with calm eyes. Reinar continued, "We call their planet a death world, but they act so kindly. They laugh easily. They forgive insults. They never show anger. How can that be? Are we to believe such restraint is natural?" Hale answered politely, "Ambassador, peace is a choice. We humans choose calmness because we have seen enough chaos." Reinar smiled slightly. "A wise answer. But sometimes, Captain, choices hide the truth. What happens if your people are pushed beyond that calm?" Hale's eyes narrowed just a little. "I would rather not find out." Reinar turned toward the others. "And yet, how can the Union trust a race whose true nature remains unseen? If humans wear masks, then we should see what lies beneath. For knowledge. For safety." Several aliens nodded again. Hale exhaled slowly. "Ambassador, I must warn you. The mask is not meant to deceive. It is meant to protect. If you try to tear it off, you won't like what you see." But Reinar did not listen. He had already decided. Over the next few days, Reinar planned what he called the Human Observation Project. He told others it was for science, but deep inside it was pride. He wanted to prove his theory right. He arranged a public meeting where humans would face a controlled psychological test. The goal, he said, was to study how they reacted under pressure. Captain Hale and his small team agreed to attend, though they didn't like the idea. When the day arrived, hundreds of aliens gathered in the observation hall. Transparent walls allowed the crowd to watch everything inside. The humans stood together: Hale, Dr. Miravos, Engineer Chen, and Lieutenant Graves. They wore their simple uniforms and quiet expressions. Reinar stood at the podium. "We are here to understand our new friends," he announced. "Let us see how they respond to tension, stress, and conflict." Hale folded his arms. "Ambassador, I hope this remains respectful." "Of course," Reinar said smoothly. But as the test began, things changed. The first stage was harmless. Confusing questions, bright lights, and timed puzzles. The humans worked together, solving everything easily. They stayed polite and calm. The audience murmured with approval. Then came the second stage. Reinar's assistants began to use verbal provocations. They insulted human history, called their wars barbaric, and mocked their homeworld. The humans stayed calm. Hale answered with simple logic. "Our past is not perfect. But we learned from it." Reinar frowned. He wanted more reaction. He ordered the next stage to begin, something harsher. Tari whispered, "Ambassador, this is too much." "Silence," Reinar said firmly. "We must know the truth." The assistants brought in a holographic image and a simulation of an alien slapping a human medic, a reenactment of an old rumor from the past war. The crowd gasped. The image was insulting, humiliating. For a moment, the humans were still. No one moved. Hale's gray eyes looked at the image, then slowly at Reinar. His voice was soft but carried weight. "Ambassador, this is not respect." Reinar ignored the warning. "It is only a simulation." "Why are you troubled, Captain? Surely you are strong enough to handle a small test." The air grew tense. The humans exchanged glances, quiet, sharp glances. The sound of laughter from a few aliens echoed across the hall. Then it happened. Lieutenant Graves took one slow step forward. His voice was calm, but every word was sharp like metal. "Ambassador Reinar," he said, "this test is over." Reinar lifted his chin. "It will end when we see your true nature." Graves turned toward Hale. "Permission to leave, sir?" Hale's jaw tightened. "Granted." But as they turned to go, one of the assistants stepped in their path, smirking. "What's wrong, Deathworlders? Can't take a joke?" Dr. Voss looked at him, her calm expression gone. "You don't understand what you're doing." The assistant laughed. "I think I do. You're not special. You're just pretending to be—" He didn't finish. Every human in the room suddenly went completely silent. Their body language changed in an instant. Shoulders squared, eyes cold. No movement wasted. The playful mask was gone. The air felt heavy, not with sound but with pressure, as if invisible energy filled the room. Even the audience could feel it. Reinar froze. He had never seen such focus, such presence. The humans looked like statues carved from determination itself. Captain Hale stepped closer to Reinar, his voice low and even. "You wanted to see the mask fall, Ambassador. Look closely. But understand this, we do not drop it for fun. We drop it when peace fails." Reinar tried to speak, but his mouth went dry. "End the test," Hale said. No one moved. "Now," Hale repeated, and the command in his tone made even the guards obey instantly. The simulation shut down. The lights dimmed. The room fell into deep silence. After the humans left, the hall remained quiet for a long time. No one dared to speak. Tari looked at her ambassador. "You saw it," she whispered. "Was that what you wanted?" Reinar said nothing. His fur trembled slightly. For the first time in years, he felt fear, not because humans had hurt anyone, but because they didn't have to. Their calmness had turned to something beyond emotion, a controlled power that could crush or protect. With the same hand, he realized he had crossed a line he didn't understand. That night, Reinar stood alone in his quarters, replaying the memory again and again. He whispered to himself, "They never lost control. Even when humiliated, they held back. What kind of beings hold such power and yet refuse to use it?" He thought about Captain Hale's words. "We drop the mask when peace fails." He suddenly understood that the mask humans wore was not a weakness. It was a mercy. For the first time, he felt ashamed. He had wanted to expose them. But instead, he had exposed himself. The stars outside Orion Prime shimmered like silent witnesses to his mistake. And deep inside, Reinar feared one thought above all. What would happen if one day the humans truly stopped pretending? The story of the Human Observation Project spread across Orion Prime faster than light through crystal. Every species on the station had heard about it. How the Valari ambassador had tested the humans, insulted them, and how they had reacted. But what truly frightened everyone was not that the humans had fought back. They hadn't. They had simply stopped smiling. And somehow, that silence was worse than any weapon. In the following days, the humans continued their normal work. They fixed systems, traded supplies, and greeted others politely. Yet everyone around them acted differently now. Aliens who once joked with humans now spoke carefully, as if each word might break something fragile. Even the security officers stood taller when humans passed by. Ambassador Reinar could feel that silent tension everywhere he went. He hadn't meant for this to happen. The experiment had been meant to satisfy curiosity, not to start fear across the station. But now fear had taken root. Reinar sat in his dimly lit office looking at the hollow recording of the event again. The moment when Captain Elias Hale had told him, "You wanted to see the mask fall," echoed in his mind like thunder. He replayed it over and over, the calm voice, the cold eyes, the command that made even guards obey instantly. Reinar's hands trembled as he paused the screen. "What have I done?" he whispered. The Galactic Council heard about the event within hours. They called for an emergency session. The message was clear. Ambassador Reinar, you will attend a council hearing to explain your actions and the reaction of the human delegation. It was a political storm, and Reinar stood in the center of it. But something else began to stir outside the political halls. Something far more dangerous. Rumors began to spread. Some species claimed that humans had threatened the Volari. Others said humans could read minds or destroy ships with a glance. Each rumor was more ridiculous than the last, but fear made them grow. Within a week, a few minor races began pulling their trade deals from human companies. Some station citizens even refused to share transport pods with humans. The humans said nothing. They stayed calm, professional, and polite. But that made it worse. Their quietness felt like the calm before a storm. Captain Hale noticed it all. He walked through the station corridors with his team, Dr. Mira Voss, Engineer Chen, and Lieutenant Graves. Their faces were calm, but their eyes held disappointment. Chen muttered softly, "They're avoiding us now." Dr. Voss sighed. "Fear spreads faster than truth." Graves clenched his jaw. "We should leave the station, sir, before things get ugly." Hale stopped walking and looked out one of the large windows. The stars were bright and endless, but somehow they looked colder now. "No," he said quietly. "Leaving would make us look guilty. We came here for peace. We'll stay, Barwin, prove we meant it." Voss looked at him. "Even after what they did?" Hale nodded. "Especially after what they did." Meanwhile, Reinar's assistant Tari grew more worried. "Ambassador," she said one morning, "the humans are being blamed for things they didn't do. Some traitors are spreading lies." Reinar rubbed his temples tiredly. "I know." "Then speak up," Tari urged. "Tell the council the truth and that the humans did nothing wrong." Reinar stood slowly. His fur had lost its usual shine. His eyes looked older. "You don't understand, Tari. The council doesn't want truth. They want control. And they are afraid because they cannot control the humans." Tari looked shocked. "So you will say nothing?" Reinar looked down. "I made this mess. I must fix it. But carefully." A week later, the council arranged a public hearing. Hundreds of ambassadors, officers, and reporters gathered in the Great Hall. Floating cameras recorded every moment for transmission across the Union. At the center stood Captain Hale and his team. On the opposite side stood Reinar, the council chair, a tall crystalline being named Speaker Ninat. Opened the session. "Ambassador Reinar," the speaker said in a smooth tone, "you organized an experiment that led to mass panic." "Explain yourself," Reinar bowed slightly. "Yes, Speaker. My goal was to understand the human nature, their emotions and restraint. I wanted to know how they could come from such a violent world and still be peaceful." "And?" the speaker asked. "I learned that their peace is real," Reinar said quietly, "but it is a choice, and one we should never take lightly." Murmurs filled the room. The speaker turned to Hale. "Captain Hale, the council wishes to know, do humans possess the ability to harm our worlds if provoked?" Hale looked at the speaker calmly. "We possess the ability to defend ourselves. That's all." The speaker's tone sharpened. "You avoided the question." Hale met their glowing eyes without flinching. "Because your question assumes we want war. We do not. We wear the mask of peace not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to choose kindness." The room went silent. Every alien present could feel the quiet weight of his words. But before the council could respond, a sudden alarm echoed through the chamber. Red lights flashed. "Emergency in Sector 9, a voice shouted through the speakers. "Containment breach, reactor instability." Everyone froze. The council guards rushed to the doors, but chaos followed. Several chambers below, an energy reactor was overheating. If it exploded, it would destroy half of Orien Prime. Panic spread instantly. Ambassadors shouted orders. Guards ran for evacuation, and the station trembled under the strain of the rising energy. Captain Hale didn't hesitate. He turned to his team. "Sector 9, now, sir!" Graves shouted. "That's suicide if it blows." Hale's eyes hardened. "If we don't stop it, thousands die." Without another word, the humans sprinted out of the hall. Reinar stood frozen as he watched them leave. Tari grabbed his arm. "Ambassador, we must evacuate." Reinar looked at the fleeing humans. "No, not yet." He followed them. They reached the damaged sector where the lights flickered red. Steam hissed from broken pipes and the reactor core glowed dangerously bright. Hale shouted orders. "Chen, override the failsafe." "Mira, stabilize coolant flow." Reinar could only watch in awe. The humans moved with speed and precision, faster than any machine. They didn't argue, didn't panic. Their focus was total. Graves crawled into a narrow maintenance tunnel filled with heat that would burn any other species alive. Chen rerouted power lines by hand, ignoring sparks that scorched his gloves. Dr. Voss worked with steady hands, connecting cables and stopping leaks with emergency gel. And Captain Hale stood before the main reactor panel, inputting codes faster than Reinar could read. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, Hale slammed his hand on the control screen. Stabilization complete. The blinding light dimmed. The alarms turned from red to yellow, then green. The reactor cooled. The explosion never came. The humans stood there sweating, exhausted, but alive. Reinar stepped forward slowly. "You saved us again." Hale turned toward him, his expression calm. "We did what needed to be done." Reinar's voice trembled. "Even after what I did to you?" Hale looked at him for a long moment. Then he said softly, "Ambassador, we don't hold grudges. But remember this, we wear masks not to deceive but to protect. You forced us to drop it once. Don't ever do it again." Reinar lowered his head, ashamed. "I understand now." Hale nodded slightly and walked past him with his team. Later that evening, the council released a message across the station. Thanks to the human delegation, a reactor disaster was prevented. Countless lives were saved. The fear that had spread began to fade, replaced by silent respect. Aliens who once avoided humans now bowed their heads when they passed. Some even offered help and friendship again. The legend of the humans grew stronger, not as monsters, but as protectors who controlled their own power for the good of others. Reinar stood once more in his office, looking out at the stars. Tari joined him quietly. "Ambassador," she said, "you were right. They do wear masks." Reinar smiled sadly. "Yes, but I was wrong about why. I thought it was to hide danger. It was to hide compassion." He looked out at the distant stars where Earth lay hidden. "Deathworlders," he whispered, "but the kindest kind of all." The Galactic Council chamber was silent. The air felt heavy as Captain Hale stood before hundreds of alien representatives. Holographic lights reflected across their scales, fur, and metal carapaces. All eyes were on the humans, the beings once called Deathworlders. Ambassador Reinar sat at the front row, his heart thumping. He had seen it happen. He had seen the human's mask fall. That moment when calm smiles turned to cold focus, when kindness changed to terrifying precision. It had lasted only minutes, but those minutes had shaken the entire galactic station. Now the galaxy wanted answers. A voice broke the silence. "Captain Hale of Earth," said Counselor Drevik, a tall insectoid leader. "You and your team have caused panic. Explain why your species hides behind false manners. Explain what you truly are." Hale did not look afraid. He stood straight, hands behind his back, eyes calm. "We hide nothing," he said slowly. "We only wear what you call a mask because we have learned restraint." The room murmured. Words like restraint and discipline did not sound dangerous. Yet everyone here had seen what restraint meant when it broke. Reinar could not stay quiet. "You call it restraint, Captain," he said, his voice shaking. "But you turned from diplomats into warriors in seconds. You disabled everyone in the hall without killing anyone. That kind of control, that kind of power. Why hide it?" Hale looked at him with tired eyes. "Because our world taught us to be careful," he said. "Humans come from a planet that tries to kill us every day. Storms, predators, sickness, hunger. We survived because we adapted. We became strong, but we also learned that strength without kindness becomes destruction." Reinar felt the truth in those words. Hale's voice was not angry. It was heavy, as if it carried memories no one wanted to remember. The insectoid counselor clicked its mandibles. "You say you learned kindness, but your kindness looks like fear to others. You hide behind jokes, smiles, and polite words." Hale gave a small smile. "That is the point," he said. The smile is not weakness. It is a promise that we will not let our instincts rule us. The room was silent again. Then another council member, a scaled creature with glowing eyes, said, "We saw you take down 20 guards without a weapon. You could have ended them. Why didn't you?" Hale sighed. "Because they were not enemies," he said. "They were just people who made a mistake. If we had wanted to destroy them, we would have. But what would that prove? That humans are monsters? No, we would rather show mercy. That is why we wear the mask." Reinar stared at him. Those words hit deep. For weeks he had believed the humans were pretending, hiding something evil. But now he understood. Their mask was not made of lies. It was made of choice. Later, outside the chamber, Reinar found Hale alone on the observation deck. Through the glass, Orien Prime's gas giant shone blue and gold. Stars glimmered beyond, peaceful and endless. Hale stood with his hands in his pockets, watching the light shift across the metal floor. Reinar walked closer, unsure what to say. "You could have destroyed us all," Reinar said softly. Hale gave a small laugh. "Maybe, but that's not who we want to be." Reinar hesitated. "I made a mistake," he said. "I wanted to see the truth behind your smiles. I thought you were pretending to be gentle. I didn't understand that your gentleness was real." Hale turned to him. "You were curious. Curiosity is not wrong, but forcing someone to break their calm can have consequences." He looked back at the stars. "We didn't come to this galaxy to show our power. We came to learn peace." Reinar felt shame burn in his chest. "The Council fears you now," he said. "They see you as a danger." Hale nodded slowly. "Fear is natural. We are used to it. Every new world we visit, the same thing happens. They see the mask, they poke it, and then they see what lies behind. Some learn respect. Some run away. Will you stay?" Reinar asked. "Yes," Hale said simply. "Because someone must teach that peace is not the same as weakness." Days passed. The story of the mask event spread through the galaxy. Some alien worlds closed their borders to humans. Others sent envoys wishing to learn from them. The Galactic Council debated for weeks. Some wanted to restrict humans from carrying weapons or serving in defense fleets. Others argued that humans had proven their self-control and should be trusted. Reinar watched every meeting, silent most of the time. He saw fear mixed with admiration. He saw how one moment of truth had changed everything. Finally, the Council made its decision. Humans would remain members of the Galactic Union, but they would be watched closely for signs of aggression. When Hale received the notice, he only nodded. "That's fair," he said. "Trust is earned." Reinar approached him after the session. "You don't seem angry," he said. Hale smiled faintly. "Anger doesn't fix fear." "Time does?" Reinar thought for a long moment, then asked, "What if time doesn't help? What if they always fear you?" Hale turned to him and said, "Then we keep smiling." That night, Reinar couldn't sleep. He walked through the quiet corridors of the station, remembering everything he had seen. The humans laughing, helping others, teaching alien children how to play games from Earth. Then he remembered their eyes when the mask fell, focused, deadly, unstoppable. He realized that both sides were true. Humans were both protectors and destroyers. Their peace was born from struggle. Their mercy came from knowing the cost of pain. He returned to his quarters and began to write a report for the Council. "Humans are not dangerous because they are strong," he wrote. "They are dangerous because they choose when not to be. Their mask is not a disguise. It is a sign of control. When they drop it, we see what survival truly means." He paused, then added, "We should be grateful they prefer to wear it." A week later, Reinar met Hale again in the docking bay. The human team was preparing to leave Orien Prime for another mission, a rescue operation on a damaged colony. Reinar walked up to him. "Captain Hale," he said, "before you go, I must thank you. You could have punished me, but you didn't. You could have left us to our fear, but you didn't." Hale smiled. "That's what makes us human, Ambassador. We make mistakes, forgive, and try again." Reinar nodded. "I hope one day the galaxy will see you the way I do now." "Maybe they will," Hale said. "Or maybe they won't, but we'll keep trying. That's what we do best." Reinar watched as the human ship lifted off, its engines glowing bright blue. For the first time, he did not feel fear. He felt respect and hope. As the ship disappeared into the stars, Reinar whispered to himself, "Never again will I ask a Deathworlder to drop their mask. They wear it for our safety and for their own peace. Back on the council world, the report Reinar had written began to spread quietly among diplomats. Many read it with awe, some with disbelief, but one line stood out to all. When Deathworlders smile, remember, it is not because they are harmless. It is because they wish to be. And with that, the galaxy began to look at humanity differently, not as monsters hiding behind gentle words, but as survivors who had learned the hardest lesson of all, that real strength is choosing peace when war comes easily. The stars beyond Orient Prime sparkled in silence. Ships moved along the trade routes and the station thrummed with life. Yet beneath the hum of normal activity, a new respect for humanity lingered. Captain Elias Hale and his team had returned to their ship after the council hearing, leaving behind a station that would never look at humans the same way again. Fear had been replaced by curiosity and admiration, though some still whispered warnings. "Do not poke the Deathworlders," they said quietly. Hale stood at the bridge, watching the glowing panels and blinking lights of the ship. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him, as if the galaxy itself were watching. Lieutenant Graves approached, hands clasped behind his back. "Sir, the station seems calmer now, but some of the council members are uneasy. They may not trust us fully yet." Hale nodded. "That is true, but trust grows slowly. We cannot force it. We can only continue to act as we always do." Engineer Chen grinned lightly. "Easy for you to say, Captain. You just stood there and looked calm while everyone feared what we could do." Dr. Mira Voss shook her head with a smile. "We saved lives, Chen, that is all. And yet somehow our calm feels like a warning." Hale allowed a small laugh. "That is part of being human. The galaxy is learning that strength and mercy can live together, and that sometimes choosing mercy is the hardest battle of all." Meanwhile, Ambassador Reinar of the Valari returned to his embassy, carrying the lessons of the recent events like a heavy weight. He had made mistakes and he had learned from them. For weeks he had watched the station. Humans worked tirelessly, laughed freely, and helped others without expectation. They taught alien children games, repaired damaged ships, and even shared meals with species who had once avoided them. But beneath their calm actions, Reinar sensed a deep strength. He remembered the moment when their mask had fallen, that instant of silence and focus that could have been deadly, yet was used only to protect others. Reinar whispered to himself, "They do not need to show their power. They choose to hold it back. That is what makes them remarkable." Back on the human ship, Hale's crew prepared for a new mission. Reports had come from the outer colonies. A mining station on the edge of a volatile asteroid field had lost contact. Supplies were running low and the crew had requested immediate assistance. Hale gathered his team in the planning room. "We have a choice," he said. "We can wait for the council's approval or we can go now. Waiting may put lives in danger." Voss frowned. "The council may not like this. But our priority is the people, not politics." Graves nodded. "We've always faced danger head-on. Why stop now?" Hale smiled faintly. "Exactly, we go. Carefully, but we go." Chen adjusted the ship's navigation controls. "Course plotted, Captain. Asteroid field ahead, but it is manageable if we stay alert." Hale placed his hands behind his back, eyes focused on the stars. "Then let's move. Lives depend on us, and that is more important than fear or reputation." The ship glided through the void, engines humming like a heartbeat. The asteroid field loomed ahead, jagged rocks spinning slowly in space. It was a dangerous place, but the humans navigated it with precision. Reinar had asked to accompany them on this mission. The council permitted it, hoping he could observe the humans firsthand. He watched from the observation deck, heart pounding with both awe and fear. Every movement of the humans seemed effortless yet deliberate. They communicated without words, sharing silent signals of understanding. Even small mistakes were corrected instantly. Reinar whispered to himself, "I have never seen a species so disciplined, so coordinated, yet they smile at the same time. How can that be?" The mining station came into view, dark, silent, and damaged. Communication systems were barely functioning. Hale ordered the ship to dock carefully, avoiding debris from the recent asteroid storms. As they entered the station, the humans split into teams. Chen checked structural integrity. Voss began triage for injured workers. Graves secured pathways and Hale led the main group. Reinar stayed close, watching everything. He noticed something remarkable. The humans never panicked. Even when a corridor collapsed slightly under the weight of loose machinery, no one yelled. No one ran blindly. They assessed, adapted, and moved forward with quiet confidence. One injured miner tried to shout, frightened by the darkness and crashing sounds. Hale knelt beside him, speaking softly, guiding him to safety. "You are safe now," Hale said calmly. "Follow us." Reinar felt a lump in his throat. The humans were not just strong. They were gentle even in danger. Hours later, the station was stabilized. The workers were safe. Supplies were recovered and the damage was contained. Hale's team gathered on the main floor, exhausted but proud. Reinar approached Hale, still unsure how to express his thoughts. "Captain, I have seen your strength again, and your mercy. I think I understand now. The mask you wear, it is not to hide but to protect. To protect yourself and others," Hale nodded. "That is right, Ambassador. Every human carries instincts built for survival, but we choose peace because it saves more than ourselves. That is the lesson of our mask." Reinar swallowed hard. "And yet the galaxy fears you." "Fear is natural," Hale said. "They see strength they cannot match. They fear what they do not understand. But time and action will teach them. Patience, restraint, and kindness speak louder than words." Reinar nodded slowly. "Then I must be the one to help them see. I must teach the Council what I have learned." On the journey back to Orien Prime, Hale and his team discussed the mission. Voss spoke first. "Do you think they will ever truly understand us?" Hale looked out the window at the stars. "Some may, others may never. But that is not our concern. Our concern is to act rightly no matter what they believe. Our actions define us more than their opinions." Graves smiled. "And if they ever test us again?" Hale's eyes narrowed slightly, but a faint smile remained. "Then we act as we must. Calmly, carefully, and kindly." Chen laughed softly. "I like that plan. Calm, careful, and kind. And still deadly if necessary," Hale chuckled. "Yes, Chen. Only if necessary." When they returned to Orien Prime, the station greeted them with awe. Reinar's reports to the Council were already spreading, describing the humans' courage, mercy, and self-control. Many aliens began to see humans in a new light. Not as dangerous Deathworlders, but as beings who had learned a difficult lesson about choice and responsibility. Reinar addressed the Council formally. "Captain Hale and his team have shown us something remarkable. They could dominate, destroy, or terrify, but they chose kindness, mercy, and protection. That is why the mask they wear is not a disguise, it is a choice. A lesson for all of us." The Council remained silent for a long moment. Then one by one ambassadors nodded. Hale stood quietly listening. He did not need their praise. He had learned long ago that actions were more important than words. That night, Hale walked the station corridors one last time. Aliens passed by, some bowing politely, others whispering admiration. Some still looked fearful, but Hale understood them. Fear was natural. It was respect waiting to grow into understanding. Reinar found him on the observation deck again. "Captain, the galaxy may never fully accept you," he said softly. Hale turned to him. "That may be true, but acceptance is not our goal. Our goal is to act rightly, to choose mercy when we can, to help those in need, and to survive without letting fear control us." Reinar nodded. "Then the mask is more than a mask. It is a promise." "Yes," Hale said. "A promise that we will not let what we are become what the galaxy fears. We are strong, yes, but our choice is stronger." As the human ship prepared to leave the station once more, Reinar watched it rise into the stars. He whispered to himself, almost in awe, "Never again will I underestimate the Deathworlders. Beneath their calm, beneath their smiles, lies both fire and kindness, and the choice between them defines their humanity and teaches the galaxy what true strength means." Hale's ship disappeared into the distant glitter of stars, carrying with it a message that the galaxy would not forget. Strength without mercy is dangerous. Mercy chosen with strength is legendary, and with that, the humans continued their journey through the galaxy, wearing their mask with pride, wisdom, and unwavering restraint, the ultimate lesson of fire and kindness.